Good morning, everyone. So we begin the second day of the session with trying to understand the role of environment as a reservoir for antimicrobial resistance, right? So yesterday we had seen about the basic microbiology. Today we'll see wherein the environmental aspect fits into the whole big story, right? So we'll be looking at the AMR, obviously it's a global crisis. We'll go through animals and food chain. We look at the various environmental reservoirs, transmission and dissemination pathway, why environmental surveillance is important, and finally a glimpse into what are the future directions in this particular area. Great. So environmental resistance, this is primarily occurs when the microbes they evolve to resist the drugs this is designed to kill them. So when we are making some medicines or drugs, primary intent is to kill those particular bugs. But when these bugs or microbes they sort of evolve and gain another sort of a different group altogether, in that case, we call this as an evolved microorganism which is capable uh, of offering a resistance to the drug which was intended to kill it. Now, that's what the problem is. The common infections, like, whatever ailments we have, we go to the doctor for with a complaint. These small infections, it becomes sometimes even difficult or impossible to treat. So then the doctors, it's then comes comes across as a health crisis because the medical professionals they struggle to find a proper treatment for a simple surgery or for simple organ transplantation or these days even for chemotherapy etc. So that's the whole problem with this particular thing. Now, if we look at the statistics, the in 2020, just 5 years back. So the yellow depiction, it shows what was the mortality of common ailments. That means, so if you see 10 million is the figure which is reflected for cancer. But if I look at the projected stats for 2050, they estimated that around 10 million is only ascertained or associated with antimicrobial resistance itself. So you see where the jump comes from or why the whole scientific community is so worried about. All right. Now, why are we looking at environment as a melting pot or as a reservoir? The main thing is, as such, if we do not do anything to the environment, natural environment, let's suppose soil. So soil is an environment which is naturally very having a very huge diversity of microbes already present. So there are millions of microorganisms anyways present. And between these bugs or between these microbes, there's always a natural mechanism of resistance. Suppose there are two or three microbes. One would want to outcompete the other ones. Okay? By producing antimicrobial substances so that the second microbe is sort of killed and the first gains from it. So that's how it was naturally existing for years, for centuries. And we do have in the soil microbiota itself several bacteria which is capable of, which innately produces antibiotics. Right? So this is a naturally existing phenomena which is already present. Now, what has changed is the human pressure or the dimension which comes into the picture due to anthropogenic interference. So, most commonly, what we say is there's a huge influx of pharmaceutical wastewater, um, or also even the pharmaceutical manufacturing. So, the industries wherein we manufacture the drugs, the medicine, the antibiotics. So, the remnants or the wastewater coming from such industries itself have a huge quantity of antibiotics present there. And also from the agricultural runoff and livestock farming, they also use antibiotics. So later in the course of the class today, we'll be seeing how that dimension fits into the picture. So this whole anthropogenic pressure, which is a recent happening. This was not happening years ago, but the natural resistance was always present, right? So this particular human dimension brings about formation of hotspots. And I would call, also we'll later see what are those hotspots where you see a huge proliferation of such resistant bacteria. All right. So today class will be specifically looking at all those compartments, environmental compartments. If you look at the basic reservoirs, apart from the resistance bacteria, we also look at the antibiotic resistance genes because there are some genes which are responsible for offering that particular profit. Right? So when a particular bacteria comes in presence to, let's say, penicillin antibiotic, okay, this particular bacteria is supposed to die in presence of penicillin, but that doesn't happen. Because why? This is resistant to penicillin. So it just stays put. Right? So we'll look at, and that resistance is due to the presence of some genes within this particular bacteria. Right? So when I speak about the resistance in the environmental setting, we'll be talking about two aspects. One is antibiotic, so ARB, which is antibiotic resistance bacteria. And if I use the terminology ARG, it indicates antibiotic resistant genes. All right. So it would be synonymously or used interchange. So if I see here, the three main reservoirs that we'll be looking at today is aquatic environment. We look at soil as a reservoir. I already mentioned soil was forever present. It's a particular reservoir which has immense amount of microbiota acid naturally present. We also see airborne transmission or air as a reservoir. This is not very well research topic, but of late there is huge amount of scientific interest in this particular area, and we'll see how we have the transmission or we have the presence of ARB or ARGs in there. We'll have a look. Okay. So let's go for the first aspect, that is aquatic environment as a reservoir called air. Now, we have a very mixed batch of students here. So there are several from life sciences who may not be knowing a lot about the water treatment or wastewater treatment aspect. So I just want to, in a nutshell, tell how things work. So if you see here, what there is a stream pass. So if this is a small screenshot of a particular town, and you all know that we primarily source the water for our daily use from a river or a neighboring stream. Okay, so this stream which is passing is a source of water for that particular town, and that water, the stream, is coming into what is called as a water treatment plant. Right. So, for example, here we have Damodar River. So the river from this particular, the water from this river would be going into a treatment plant, right, which is what is the first box which is shown here. The treated water, what happens to that is then distributed to all our houses. First, industry, even the industries. It's not that the industry gets water which is untreated. So to the industry, to our homes, to households, everywhere, the treated water is distributed. Now, once that water is utilized by us, so we use it for drinking purposes, cleaning, bathing, industries use it for their process activities. All that water, once it is used, that can then escape, so we call it as a wastewater. So if you see here, you then have the wastewater treatment plant towards the downstream. Right? So we have two aspects. One is the water treatment plant, which is primarily to treat the water from the incoming source. After we use the water for different activities, it then escapes as wastewater. Right. So of these two domains that we have, the wastewater treatment plant is recognized as one of the hotspots of FAMA, which CCOMDASH is. Okay, but at least now it is clear to you what are the two segregations. All right. Having said that, if you see towards the right of the screen, there's also what is called as a storm sewer. Now, what that is, like these days, we're experiencing a lot of rainfall. So storm event is nothing but a regular monsoonal rainfall or a rainstorm event. So the water which comes or which is going into the drains due to the rainfall, we call it as runoff or surface runoff or storm runoff. Now, that water usually do not go through treatment. Why? Because that water will primarily be having a lot of, suspended cells and not having polluted organic matter that we need to be very worried of. So if it's just sand or silt, simply by having a sedimentation tank, settling tank, by a simple physical treatment itself, we can sort of segregate and remove it. So if you see towards the end, if that storm sewer drain water, if it is clubbed or combined along with the sanitary wastewater or sewage, we call it as a combined sewer system. Okay, so that means the water which is being used after, any activities that we do, that it is discharged as wastewater. If that wastewater, which is technically also called as sewage, if it is combined alongside the storm water, I call that as a combined sewer, because then it goes into a combined system wherein both of these needs to be dealt with. Okay. The obvious reason is the combined system will be having much more wastewater to treat. All right. So earlier I was dealing with wastewater of a particular strength. Let's say BOD was around 1000 milligrams per liter. The BOD or the organic strength of storm water would be very less because there's hardly any organic matter. But when you combine these two, okay, fine, we are happy that the BOD would go down due to the process of dilution. But to make matters worse, we now have around 10 times more volume of water to treat. Alright? So both have the advantage, disadvantage. This is a separate system where separate sewerage system is one, wherein it is dedicated only for treatment of wastewater. Combined would combine the storm water and this. So this was important because we'll be coming later with the combined aspects and all that. Now wastewater treatments. So what we treat here in the wastewater, these are designed to eliminate, these are usually or typically not designed to eliminate antibiotics or antimicrobial resistance bacteria or resistant genes. Okay, so we have a train or scheme of treatment available out there, but as such, there is no particular scheme which is actually looking into treatment or removal of antibiotics as such. Okay, we have a lot of parameters. There's BOD, COD. There are physical parameters like temperature, color, odor, all those things. Then we have a host of chemical parameters. Then we have nitrate, nitrite, chloride, phosphorus, all those things out there. But as such, till date, we don't have anything which actually looks under the scanner for presence of any antibiotic presence there. It's not there because it's very cumbersome. So that's one of the problems. The treated effluent containing resistant microbes and resistant genes are therefore discharged into the rivers. Now, what I mean by that is your treated wastewater. Do you think that it is wastewater, it is treated, and then it is disposed? But disposed where? If you carefully look at this picture, it is disposed back into the same river. Got you. Okay. Right? So you may not then be using that water, but then downstream, when that river goes to the next city or town downstream, that particular water is used as a source for that particular terrain. Alright, so you see the problems. We had wastewater which had some remnants of antibiotics there, and we'll see how that antibiotic remnants keep. That's a different thing altogether. But it gets untreated, and then it reaches the next town where there is water treatment. Even then, there is absolutely nothing which is going to. So there's as such, as on date, no treatment which is primarily looking for removal of antibiotics. All right. Let's look at the various reservoirs. So where does this antibiotic come into my, aquatic stream? So there are, if you see this picture, antibiotics as such. It's just logically we all know hospitals is one of the prime source because hospitals utilize a lot of antibiotics. Inpatients now we will have utilization of a lot of antibiotics. Pharmaceutical industries, because they are the ones which are manufacturing the antibiotics. So obviously the wastewater or processed water which goes from that industry will always be rich in antibiotics. Then we have what is called livestock, aquaculture. We'll have a look at all this, and agricultural runoff. We'll see each section at a time. But having said all that, municipal wastewater treatment plant is identified as a hotspot, and just tell me why. So hospital wastewater it has antibiotic concentrations which can select antibiotic resistance bacteria and favor their growth in hospital wastewater. See, what happens is when you have a particular material which is present in abundance. So hospital wastewater has abundant amounts of antibiotic as such. So eventually during the course of natural evolution, it would, after a particular, scheme of events or after a particular time, you'll see that eventually there will be evolution or growth of urban space. Okay. And that's because continuously on a sustained manner, hospitals evolve out wastewater, which is rich in antibiotics. Okay. ARB concentrations are much higher in hospital wastewater than in urban wastewater. Now, where does antibiotics come in the urban wastewater? Any idea? Urban wastewater is the wastewater which is coming from my homes, your homes, hostels, and all. So where is antibiotics coming? What do you think? Wait. Which we consume. So when I get sick, if I get sick, good. Even if I don't get sick these days, there's a whole trend that we go for proliferatic drugs to make sure that we don't fall sick. So when we're consuming all this, it's only a small fraction which is actually being assimilated in our body. And then when we urinate or from our excreta, from human excreta, it then reaches the wastewater stream. Okay, and the amount of antibiotics which is present in an urban wastewater, it is there, but the amount is very less when I compare it with a hospital waste, for obvious reasons, right? So, and you know why? Because of the massive amounts of utilization there. So in a community, let me take this campus as an example. We're having about 8,000 students here. So the chances are, that all my 8,000 or 6,000 students are falling sick at a time and taking huge doses of antibiotics is very remote. When I compare that with a hospital, which is obviously most of the patients there must be administering antibiotics, they're recovering from surgeries and so forth. Okay. Second is pharmaceutical effluents. Now, these are the manufacturing hubs. So here, the wastewater discharged from manufacturing plants, these are hotspots for selection of AMR. And they are allowing a high concentration of antibiotics. Here comes a concept of what is called as minimum selective concentration. Now, minimum selective concentration of a particular antibiotic is that concentration which is needed for generation of or for formation of resistance in a particular bacteria. Okay, so repeat. MSC or minimum selective concentration is the concentration of antibiotic which minimum that concentration should be present in a wastewater, which will then trigger resistance in a bacteria. If the bacteria are not resistant, we are happy because then when the antibiotic comes into the in action, he or she is dead. When the bacteria is dead and killed. But when this gains resistance, this killing is not happening. And and you need something for that particular bug to evolve the resistance mechanism. That's something, that minimum concentration is MS. If we just take an example of ciprofloxacin, for an example, so the MSC for that particular drug is very less. It's 0.007 microgram per liter. Okay, you don't have to take the details because these things change for drug to drug. But just for your records, it's 0.007 micrograms per liter. It's very tiny amount, is enough to sort of instigate or stimulate the resistance in a bacteria. And in Hyderabad, where we have this pharmaceutical hub, what is the concentration that I usually have in waters, in drinking waters? Can you imagine? Close to 1 milligrams per liter. The other one was 0.07 micrograms per liter. Let's see the difference. And in some other towns, so we have a huge amount of such testing, work and literature being published. So in a city in China where they have a similar manufacturing hub, it was reported as 2.5 milligrams per liter. So you can just imagine the enormous amount present. So obviously resistance is something which will come because of the presence. Now, so there's an alarmingly high concentration of these antibiotics, and these trigger the emergence of hypermutagenic strains. So they mutate and they make another form of themselves, which is so easy and very resistant to these antibiotics. Okay, so that was about the hospital wastewater and the pharmaceuticals. If you look at the wastewater treatment plants itself, they also receive high dose of antibiotic residues. As you all said a few moments back, this source is primarily from human excretion. Okay, but the problem here is when you compare the hospital wastewater with that of sewage or wastewater treatment plants, the concentration of antibiotics will be much lesser in sewage. But why am I worried? Why is wastewater treatment plant a hotspot? Why? Because of the sheer volume. Okay, the amount of wastewater which is generated, the volume which is generated is immense when you compare to that of a hospital wastewater. Okay, so that's a cause of concern. But if I have to sort of compare an urban wastewater with that of hospital wastewater, urban streams would be having a lot more of fecal pollutants also, apart from ARVs and ERGs, whereas hospital wastewaters may not be having huge loads of fecal pollutants. So that's one kind of trend which we usually see in both the systems. Now, the resistant genes present in over 80% of the effluent samples worldwide. So, the surveillance data which we have has shown that close to, a majority of the wastewater usually have huge amounts of, resistant gene already present, okay, because of the concentration of antibiotics around. Now, the residual antibiotics and mobile genetic elements persist in the treated effluents, right? What is mobile genetic elements? So these are in genes, you have what is called as transposons. So people from the life sciences, and these are very easily plasmids and transposons. They can move between the different strains also. Like, so they cause changes in the pattern, in the nature that the microbes are. Now, when I'm having a treatment specific for wastewater, we think, okay, this particular wastewater is treated. I don't need to be worried. I'm all good to go. But those treatments are doing nothing for the residual antibiotics or for these ARGs and the mobile elements. So that's why we are also concerned and we're having such a course here. The combined sewer systems are at greater risk of polluting the environment with AMR than the separate sewer system, because when you're going to combine both and you're having huge amounts of volume, then we have sort of polluted more fraction of the water. Earlier we were restricted to a separate component. Now we have segregated and the concentration is even less, but we have polluted more. So there's always a debate between whether a combined system or a separate system is good. But there's always a danger that when we combine, then we are transferring the pollution loads to a larger section of the society. And these compounds continue circulating through the surface waters, which I already mentioned. So you have treated water entering back into the river, and then the whole cycle gets on, because that is a source for some other downs. Okay. When I'm looking at wastewater treatment plants, apart from water, I need to know something more about biosolids. Okay. Where does this biosolids come into picture? Right. So this particular picture is, it's like a snapshot, or I've taken it from one of the treatment units. Okay. So when I'm having a wastewater treatment plant, there are several units. There are, settling tanks, there is split chamber, there are, a scheme of different types of treatment available there. One of which is called as a biological treatment plant, and most conventionally what we use is called as an activated sludge treatment plant. So if you look here, the effluent, that is the wastewater, which has organic matter, that is, the usual organic matter or waste present, it is coming. And here, the aeration tank is a tank which is the main treatment tank. And what happens in an aeration tank is there is, combination of regular bacteria. So I'm not talking anything about the resistant bacteria here. So we have a set of bacteria which are used in the wastewater treatment plant. These utilize the organic matter present in the wastewater, and they sort of treat it in the whole scale. So organic matter is converted into carbon dioxide and water. So this is what is happening